Welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. My name is Jason. I'll be your host on this CFL talk show, Hussey's Huddle. In this video, we preview Week 8 of the 2022 CFL season. But really quickly before we get started, if you want to support the channel, as always, be sure to hit like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And with that said, let's get started with today's preview. So a little disclaimer here, I'm recording here on a Wednesday night, so a day before the first game of this week. So if anything changes with lineups or whatnot, or the betting line, that's why, guys. And I have something to do tomorrow, so I have to pre-record this a little bit. So starting with the first game as we get ready for our preview here, which is a game between the Montrealouettes and the Hamilton TigerCats, with the Hamilton TigerCats favored by 3 points at home. And it's going to be a very interesting game from a lot of perspectives. I think that from the Montreal perspective, I think Trevor Harris, can he have 2 great games in a row? We know he's capable of these great games. We saw it last week. We've seen it multiple times throughout his career. But rarely does it come multiple weeks in a row, and they really do need him to play at that level, especially with the way this team is closing games, especially the defense is allowing a lot of big plays in the second half. They have been able to put up like 30-plus points the last couple of weeks. Let's see if they can keep that going against a pretty good Hamilton defense that just shut down BC last week for the most part. So I'm looking for that for Montreal, consistency from Trevor Harris. And then from the Hamilton perspective, couple of guys coming back from injury. Cariel Brooks, defensive back, led the league in interceptions last year. Lamar Durant, a big free agent signing, a Canadian receiver. Going to go with 2 Canadian starting receivers in this one. Going to be interesting to see how that dynamic changes this offense and allows them to start an American elsewhere. Going to be very interesting to see. And then I'm also looking to see what team of these 2 can close in the fourth, because these are the 2 worst teams I would bet. And I haven't really looked at the statistics or the advanced analytics or anything like that, but these are probably the 2 worst teams in the fourth quarter this season in the CFL. What team shows up in the fourth quarter probably wins this game? I'm going to go with Hamilton to win this one by a score of 24-17. I just think that it means more to them, this game, even though Montreal, this is a very crucial opportunity for them to really stake hold to that second place in the East and really put some distance between them and Hamilton and Ottawa. But ultimately, I think Hamilton's going to come through at home, where they usually find a way to win. They haven't so far this year, but ultimately Hamilton is 1-0 against the East and 0-5 versus the West, so we'll see what happens. I'm going to go with Hamilton to win this game. But on the community tab, we actually have the opposite, with Montreal taking 58% of the vote, so that's the channel's pick this week. Then our second game of the week, which is Friday Night Football between the BC Lions and the Saskatchewan Roughriders, with the BC Lions favored by 1.5 points. Very even spread, and that's largely because I think of the injuries that Saskatchewan is dealing with right now. Obviously, a couple of guys still coming off the COVID list, what they were dealing with last week, and then BC obviously being an excellent team this year. And from their perspective, this is such a huge opportunity to really take down one of the top teams in the West. They haven't really done that so far this season. Their one opportunity was against Winnipeg. We'll see if they can get it done here. And this is a great opportunity to do it against a banged-up Saskatchewan team. I'm looking to see if BC's offense can get back on track after having a bit of a down week last week. I didn't think they played all too well, only scoring 17 points in a win against Hamilton. So we'll see if they can get back on track and get somewhere close to that early season form. I'm not expecting you to score 59 points, but, just get a little bit more rhythm on this offense. You have the playmakers to do it, and in a very hostile environment at Mosaic Stadium, going to be interesting to see if they can come through. And then from the Saskatchewan perspective, I'm interested in 2 players that missed last week's game against Toronto. Cody Fajardo, quarterback, will he actually play in this one? And if he does, how mobile is he with that knee injury? And then Duke Williams, who missed last week due to a suspension. Does he have a big bounce-back game, make people forget a little bit about what happened with the whole Shaq Richardson, all the alleged things that are happening there? So I'm really interested to see what happens with this game. And ultimately, because of the uncertainty surrounding Saskatchewan and that BC has been pretty consistent week to week this year, I'm going to go with them to win. Not super confident in this because the Riders are such a hard team to beat at home, but we just saw them lose last week, albeit with a third-string quarterback starting. So again, that Fajardo question is huge, but I'm going to take BC to win this game 27-23 and ultimately get one of these big signature wins over a top Western opponent. Those on the community tab agree with me here, with 72% of people taking the BC Lions to win this game, so that's the fans' pick this week. And then the Saturday night game between the Winnipeg Blue Bombers visiting the Calgary Stampeders, with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers favored by 1.5 points as of the recording of this video. And from Winnipeg's perspective going into this game, I mean, obviously they were able to get the victory a couple weeks ago against Calgary. Wasn't a perfect effort on their part. They made plenty of mistakes in that game. And I think one thing they really want to get going is that ground game that has kind of struggled throughout the season. They have put a lot on Zach Collaros so far this season, and he's, delivered. He's quite clearly the best quarterback in the CFL right now. But how often can you do that, or how consistently can you really do that? They're 7-0, but I think that there are a couple of games here that really could have went the other way. I think it's just a testament to how they've been able to close games, and can they do it again this week? It's going to be very interesting to see if they can go into McMahon and win it. And I think their red zone defense is obviously the big strong point, I think, of this team. Teams have been able to move the ball this year on Winnipeg, but they have not been able to score touchdowns, and that's going to be the key for Calgary. Can they get in the end zone? Can they hang on to the ball, which is one thing they couldn't do last week? A lot of drop passes, and I'm very interested to see if this is a game that lives up to the hype like it did a couple of weeks ago. Ultimately, I'm going to go with Winnipeg because I went against them a couple of times in a row, the 2 of the last 3 weeks. So I'm going to go with Winnipeg to win this game. Not super confident because I really do feel like Calgary has the ability to take them on and win, as I did pick them a couple of weeks ago. But I'm going to say Winnipeg's going to win because I think Calgary's actually dealing with a couple of guys out with COVID. I think Derek Dennis, their left tackle, that could be a huge injury in this game. I think that ultimately Winnipeg is the healthier team right now and should squeak out a victory, but again, not super confident about this one. And interesting enough, the community tab is actually picking Calgary in this one with 61% of the vote as the recording of this video, so that's the pick for the channel this week. And then our final game of the week, which is the Toronto Argonauts hosting the Ottawa RedBlacks on Sunday evening, with the Argos favored by 5.5 points here. And I think from the Ottawa perspective, obviously it's all about getting that first win of the season, 0-6 to begin the year. And you could talk about this team is better than their record, but ultimately they need to get a win soon, and they need to find a way to close out one of these games. They've just been pretty dreadful in these crucial situations, and they've been in a lot of close games. They just have not been able to close out games. It's going to be very interesting to see what quarterback is at the helm for Ottawa in this one. Is Nick Arbuckle going to make his first career start for Ottawa, or is Caleb Evans going to start in the third week in a row for him? So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think it really matters too much either way, because I think that, maybe you're working against the little knowledge in the playbook for Arbuckle in the case if you start him, and then Caleb Evans, I think you have less starts under your belt if you're him. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Ottawa can finally put together a winning game here against a good Toronto team that is now 3-2. And then on the Toronto perspective, I think this is a game that Andrew Harris could really feast. We saw he really got going last week, 143 rushing yards against Saskatchewan. Really was just the engine of this offense, and I think they need to ride them again here. Ottawa has given up a couple of huge runs in this early season here, and I'm really interested to see what happens with that particular matchup. Can Ottawa somewhat slow down Harris throughout this game? And I think that's going to be really crucial to deciding who wins this one. And then McLeod Bethel-Thompson, can he play 3 good games in a row? I think that's going to be an interesting telling point from him as a kind of a sub-storyline for this game. And ultimately, I think Toronto should win this game. No excuse really to not win this game. They were a good home team last year. Ottawa should be down, honestly, 0-6. I mean, one more loss really, and they feel like they're almost out of it because there'll be like 3 games back potentially of Hamilton or Montreal at the end of this week. So really interested to see what happens in this game. I'm going to go with Toronto to win it 32-27. That 5.5 points, I really wouldn't bet this game if I was a betting person. But, I'm really interested to see what happens in this one. I think that Toronto doesn't necessarily blow teams out, so that's why I would kind of be scared of that 5.5 number. But ultimately, I do think they're going to win this game and ultimately advance to 4-2. And then on the community tab, the fans are taking Toronto 72% of the time, so that's the channel's pick for this game this week. But at the end of the day, those are just my predictions for Week 8 of the 2022 CFL season. Be sure to let me know your picks down in the comment section. And with that said, I hope everyone has a great day, enjoys the games this weekend, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.